In this video, we'll be looking at the three-stage identification, disidentification, and self-identification exercise from Roberto Assagioli, who is the founder of psychosynthesis, a modality of transpersonal psychology and psychotherapy. I've modified the exercise to some degree and added phrases which I felt enhanced the meditation. Let me know what you think in the comments box below. In the first half, I'll explain what the purpose of doing this exercise is and give an explanation of how it works and what you can gain by practicing it regularly. After that, I'll guide you through the exercise itself. I'd recommend going through the whole video at least once to understand the process, and then you can come back to it and skip towards the meditation part. I'll put the time at which the guided meditation begins in the description below, so you can fast forward to that part when you're familiar enough with it. The exercise is a form of meditation which will increase your awareness of yourself as conscious and help to build your inner observer so that you can gain more insight into your internal life without being carried away with things like thoughts, worry, daydreaming, emotions or physical sensations. All animals, and according to some traditions all things, have a level of consciousness, but it's only us humans that are self-conscious, aware that we're aware. And even in us, this can vary from being unconscious when we're asleep, for example, or lost in a daydream, to being super switched on and feeling fully alive and present. The capacity to be as conscious as possible is rarely fully developed and not something we typically pay attention to. And when we do pay attention, our experience is often distorted because our consciousness is usually confused with what we are conscious of, the content in our minds, either our thoughts, our emotions, feelings, or our body sensations. With practice, it's possible to gain a clearer understanding of ourselves and to be able to differentiate our consciousness from the contents of our awareness. As we become more aware of ourselves as a point of conscious awareness, sometimes called the inner observer or I consciousness, we realise that we are not our thoughts or our feelings or our body sensations. We have this internal experience, but we're more than just a stream of these experiences. As I learn to allow these things to quieten and fall away from my awareness, I'm still here, observing and conscious, but not caught up in the noise. Most of us will be more preoccupied with one of the three main functions of the mind, that's thought, feeling, or awareness of our body and its sensations. Western culture places most value on thinking and logic, with the emphasis on educational achievement, being bright, and high achieving at work. We live in a knowledge economy and are encouraged to work smarter and undertake continual personal development, which often just means learning more information. It's hardly surprising that most of us are identified with our minds and live in our heads, tackling problems by thinking it through. Those who are identified with their minds are likely to describe themselves with intellectual constructs, even when asked how they're feeling. They often consider feelings and sensations as peripheral or are largely unaware of having them. Many are identified with a role and live, function and experience themselves in terms of that role, such as mother, husband, student, businessman, teacher. Other people are more identified with their bodies. They experience themselves and often talk about themselves mainly in physical and visual terms and are predominantly conscious of their body sensations such as hunger, being hot or cold, comfortable or uncomfortable, and whether they're attractive or unattractive. In other words, they function as if they were their bodies. Others are identified with their feelings. They experience and describe their state of being in emotional terms. Someone like this is often described as following their heart. They believe their feelings to be the central and most intimate part of themselves, while thoughts and sensations are perceived as more distant, perhaps somewhat separate. It's also possible to become identified with a role in life or with an aspect of the personality. You may be identified with being a good boyfriend or girlfriend, or with your job. It's not unusual to become identified with a part of yourself, such as the inner critic, saboteur, helpless child. There are many others, some are archetypal, and some more particular to the individual. These identifications can be fleeting, only being triggered under certain circumstances, or they may be more habitual or even the primary mode of being in the world. Identification with only a part of our personality may become familiar and may seem safe and can be useful sometimes, but it's very limiting. It prevents us from realising the experience of the I, the deep sense of self-identification, of knowing who we are. It excludes or greatly decreases the ability to identify with all the other parts of our personality, to enjoy them and utilise them to their full extent. Thus, our normal expression in the world is limited at any one time to only a fraction of what it can be. The conscious or even unconscious realisation that we somehow do not have access to much of what is within us can cause frustration and painful feelings of inadequacy and failure. This is what's known as existential guilt, feeling guilty that we're not living up to our potential as whole and integrated human beings. It's possible to learn to recognise these identifications and choose to disidentify when we feel ourselves caught up. Ideally, we'll be able to choose to identify with a helpful part of ourselves when required, such as playing the social butterfly at a party, even though we may be feeling a little nervous or reticent or in a bad mood. Learning to recognise and choose can best be done by a deliberate exercise of disidentification and self-identification. Through it, we can gain a freedom and the power of choice to be identified with or disidentify from any aspect of our personality, according to what seems to us the most appropriate in each situation. Thus, we can learn to master, direct, and utilise all of the elements and aspects of our personality in inclusive and harmonious synthesis. Now we come to the exercise. The following meditation is intended as a tool for achieving the consciousness of the self, the ability to focus our attention sequentially on each of our main personality aspects or roles, etc. We then become clearly aware of and can examine their qualities while maintaining the point of view of the observer. In the form which follows, the first phase of the exercise, the disidentification, consists of 3 parts dealing with the physical, emotional and mental aspects of awareness. This leads to the self-identification phase. So when you're ready, and in your own time, just lower your gaze, or if you're willing, gently close your eyes. Become aware of your breathing, just as it is. No need to change anything. Breathe yourself into your body. Notice where you can feel the sensations of your breathing. Maybe you can feel it more around your nostrils. Perhaps you can feel your chest gently expanding and contracting. Notice the flow into the area around your heart. You may feel the air flowing in and out of your belly too. Just notice how the air flows, bringing fresh oxygen into your body, to all the cells throughout your body, bringing energy into your body. And notice how your body is making contact with whatever it is you're sitting on. That might be a chair or couch or the ground. Notice the contact your feet make with the ground. Feel the weight of your body being held by the earth beneath you. A feeling of being supported. Your body is supported by the earth and you are supported by your body. And now you can make the following affirmation silently to yourself. I have a body, but I'm more than just my body. My body may feel rested, sometimes maybe tired, sometimes unwell and sometimes healthy, but that does not affect my essential self. My inner I remains unchanged. I am still me. I appreciate my body as a vehicle of movement, of action, and through the senses of the body I experience the world. It gets me around from A to B, and I can rely on it. I treat it as well as I can, and I try and keep it in good health, but it's not me. Take a few moments to focus on the central notion: I have a body, and I'm more than just my body. And now choose to let go of the sensations you feel in your body. Allow the awareness of your body to fade into the background as you become aware of any emotions that might be arising in your experience. Perhaps there are feelings from earlier in the day or from the week. Perhaps there are feelings about doing this meditation. Just notice the tone of your felt sense. Perhaps you can name some of the emotions you're experiencing. And perhaps they're more intangible. And notice if they change. Perhaps they increase in intensity or decrease. Perhaps they dissipate to reveal other feelings behind them. They may be complex, subtle, raw, unpleasant, or pleasant and pleasurable feelings. Acknowledge to yourself how your emotions can change, how they shift, how they feel like energy, how they move through you. You can affirm to yourself, my feelings are diverse, changing, and sometimes contradictory. They may swing from calm to frustration or anger, from love to hate, from joy to sorrow. And yet my essence, my true nature does not change. I remain. Though a wave of anger may temporarily overwhelm me, I know that it will pass in time. Therefore I'm not this anger. Since I can observe and understand my emotions, and in time learn to direct, utilize and integrate them harmoniously, it's clear that they are not myself. Affirm to yourself, I have emotions, but I'm more than just my emotions. I have emotions, but I'm not my emotions. Now, if you're willing, choose to let your emotions, your feelings fade into the background of your attention and become aware of any thoughts you're having. Your mind uses thoughts to analyse and decide, to discern and calculate. Acknowledge inwardly, my mind is a valuable tool of discovery and expression, but it's not the essence of my being. Its contents are changing constantly as it embraces new ideas, new knowledge and experience. Often it refuses to obey me. Therefore, it cannot be me, myself. It's an organ of learning and knowledge in regard to both my experience out in the world and to my inner self. But it's not myself. It's an organ of learning and of knowledge in regard to both my experience out in the world and to my inner world, but it's not myself. I have a mind, but I am not my mind. If you're willing, choose to let your thoughts drift away, like clouds against a clear sky. They may come again. Allow them, but allow them to drift again and dissipate like clouds against a clear sky. Notice that in the gaps between your thoughts, you are still there. I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. Notice, as I disidentify from the contents of my consciousness, the sensations, emotions, thoughts, I recognize and affirm that I'm a centre of consciousness. I'm a centre of will, capable of observing, directing, and using my mind, my emotions, intuition, creativity, and my physical body. Focus your attention on the central realization, I'm a pure centre. Focus your attention on the central realization, I'm a centre of pure self-consciousness and of will. As much as you're able, realise this as an experienced fact in your awareness. I affirm my identity with this centre and realise its permanency and its energy. I recognise and affirm myself as a centre of pure self-awareness and of creative, dynamic energy. I realise that from this centre of true identity, I can learn to observe, direct and harmonise all the psychological processes and the physical body. I will to achieve a constant awareness of this fact in the midst of my everyday life, and to use it to help me and give increasing meaning and direction to my life. Affirm again, I'm a centre of pure consciousness. If your mind carries you off into thought, just notice this and let the thoughts float away like clouds against a clear sky. In this state of disidentification, you are more present to your whole true self, your higher self. Sink deeper into the centre of yourself. This is an oasis of calm, of wisdom, of serenity. Always there, always available to you. And you're free to return here at any time. At source, you're always your higher self. Take a few moments to rest here in the still and silent wholeness of yourself. Notice how relaxed your body is, how it's supported by the ground beneath you. The contact of your body with the chair, or whatever it is you're sitting on. Notice your breathing. Breathe yourself back into awareness. Awareness of the sounds in the room, sounds outside the room. Maybe give your toes a wiggle. When you're ready and in your own time, gently open your eyes and come back into the room where you are. Once some experience is gained with this exercise, it can be expanded or modified according to your needs. For example, you may want to include the affirmation that you are one of the roles in your life, such as your father or your job. I am a father, but I'm more than just a father. I hope you find this exercise useful. Please leave any suggestions or comments in the comments box below. I'll be grateful for your feedback as to how I can improve the exercise, or if you have any requests for new meditations. Please subscribe using the button below